As you will have read already, we don't know much about the Etruscans. So, how do we know what we know? Historical documents and archaeological remains indicate that the Etruscans were more developed than their neighbours in the Italian peninsula in terms of their political and social structures, the complexity of their religion, their ability in the arts, their technologies, metallurgy in particular, and in sailing, as demonstrated by their powerful military and trading fleet. The Roman Livy's comment to the effect that the Etruscans paid more attention than any other people to religious considerations is one of the few positive statements about the Etruscans in the ancient sources. No Etruscan literature has survived, and Greek and Roman authors tended to look down upon the Etruscans in many ways, particularly regarding Etruscan commerce and social customs. So, how do we know anything about the Etruscans that isn't hugely biased? One way is through linguistics. The Etruscan language is no longer obscure and mysterious, even if there are still large gaps in our knowledge of its grammar. The Etruscan language is really quite different to those of other ancient Mediterranean cultures. The Etruscan script is an alphabet, taken from the Greeks, and it is in turn the source of the Latin script. It can therefore be read, in other words, we know roughly how the letters were pronounced. Two examples are on the slide here. On the right you can see their script is carved into the stone, and on the left carved into metal. We have no literature from the Etruscans, but we do have some of these inscriptions. There's around 9,000 of these that survive. We also have a book made of linen, which is partially preserved in the binding of an Egyptian mummy. Some Greek and Latin texts give meanings for Etruscan words, but their use is limited as they're mostly about people's names. Linguists have to do some serious detective work to figure out what is contained within the surviving inscriptions to this day. Where did the Etruscans come from? Some very recent evidence for the origins of the Etruscans comes from DNA. Both cattle and human DNA sampled from Etruria corresponds with Neolithic DNA from around the Fertile Crescent. This means that people migrated and brought their cows with them. The movement of cows was not via trade. Scientists instead suggest that they arrived in Italy during the Bronze Age, and you'll remember that that's around the 12th to the 10th centuries BC. This means that it is possibly related to the same disruption we saw previously with the collapse of the Minoan civilization. If this is correct, then Herodotus' theory for where they came from, summarized on page 174 of your textbook, is right. The rest of this page concerns some other ways that we know about the Etruscans, their society, and their culture.